Hello everyone, I'm going to be talking about the cell, and for the purposes of this video I have decided to compare the cell to a factory. The reason that I chose this was because I believe that if you understand science and relate it to something in everyday life that's simple, then it's easier for you to remember the details when you have to go to study or remember stuff for a test. So let's start off with the cell is the first living level of organization. First, we have the cell membrane, and you can see on the picture that I drew that I drew a bigger picture of the phospholipid bilayer. This lets things in and out of the cell. The cell membrane defines boundaries and protects the cell. It contains the part of the cell within the cell and keeps unwanted materials out of the cell. It's composed of the bilayer that I mentioned before and regulates materials in and out of the cell. Factories have walls that separate the outside from the inside. This is similar to the cell membrane. The doors of the building have a keypad for entry into the building. This keeps the factory protected and regulates who and what goes in or out. Next, we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is comprised of everything inside of the cell. It consists of cytosol, the cytoskeleton, and the organelles of the cell. The cytoskeleton is made from supportive proteins that provide internal support. The cytosol is the fluid inside the cell. In the factory, the cytoskeleton can be compared to the structural support such as walls or beams. The cytoplasm is essentially the factory floor where all the work takes place. You can think of the cytoplasm like gelatin made up mostly of water, which holds everything in place. Next up, we have the nucleus. It contains the DNA, it's surrounded by the nuclear envelope, and contains the nucleolus, which produces ribosomes. It also controls everything that happens in the cell. This is where the headquarters or the manager's office would be in the factory. All important documents are kept here. All design papers for items made in the factory are stored here. Instructions for department job duties are located here as well. The nucleus could be considered the brain of the cell. Next up, we have the endoplasmic reticulum. This is comprised of smooth and rough. It's a series of pathways through the cell called the cisternae. There's two different types, as I mentioned, the smooth and rough. The rough is continuous with the nuclear envelope and contains the ribosomes. That would be the arrow on the top of the picture that I have showed you. The smooth is continuous with the endoplasmic reticulum and detoxifies the cytoplasm. All right. In the factory, this can be thought of as the assembly line, where the workers stand along the assembly line and add to the production. As proteins are made, they are moved down the line. Next up, we have ribosomes. There's two different types of ribosomes, the ribosomes that are on the endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes that are free-floating. The ribosomes are very important because they read the genetic material and produce peptides and proteins based on the segment of DNA that is read. They are produced in the nucleolus of the cell, and they are free in the cytosol, as you can see on the left side of the picture. They also play a role in keeping the cell healthy, and cells need many different types of proteins. In the factory, ribosomes are the workers. The workers are given specific tasks to perform the managing office. From the managing office, the nucleus. They work in different areas such as the assembly line or the endoplasmic reticulum or other parts of the floor, the cytosol. Up next, we have the Golgi apparatus. That's made of a collection of flat sacs called cisternae. It finishes off and puts touches on peptide and protein synthesis, and finished proteins are packed in the Golgi vesicles and transported in the cytoplasm. Vesicles sometimes transport products through cell membranes. You can see the Golgi apparatus as shown more in the middle of the picture. The Golgi vesicles are more at the top of the picture. In the factory, this is the packaging department. After the product comes off the assembly line or the endoplasmic reticulum, it comes to the packaging department where it's inspected, packaged, and shipped. The package cars are the Golgi vesicles. Up next, we have the lysosomes. They are a specialized type of Golgi vesicle. They travel around the cell and break down bacteria. They contain 50 types of digestive enzymes to break down material they encounter. We also will discuss the peroxisomes, which are similar to the lysosomes. They are produced by the endoplasmic reticulum and they detoxify cells. In the factory, the lysosomes and peroxisomes are the janitorial crew. They go around and clean up mess so there is room for efficient production. Up next, we have the mitochondria. It's oval in shape and internal phones known as cisternae. They synthesize ATP. In the factory, mitochondria are the power generators. They keep everything the factory needs to operate running. They provide energy needed to function. And lastly, we have the centrioles. They are paired organelles organized in a perpendicular fashion. They contain microtubules, and the microtubules are proteins that function during cell division. They are star-shaped as shown in the picture. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.